Disney Villains Land is my most anticipated project coming to Walt Disney World, and things are already moving. Hello everybody, welcome. With Josh D'Amaro at the helm, big changes are coming to Villains Land, and we have a brand new layout to discuss. Everything we know about Disney Villains Land has come primarily from one piece of concept art that was released during the D23 Expo. Now, this was way back in 2024, and there have been a lot of changes since then. We've received a handful of other permits and various filings giving us a window into the land's shape, size, and possible attractions. Now, I want to throw up this map here that I created that showcases a lot of the different things we're expecting to get as part of the Magic Kingdom expansions happening over the next few years. In the center and bottom right areas, you can see everything highlighted in sort of that silver, white, chrome border. Those are existing areas and attractions as part of Magic Kingdom. Anything that's in the blue space are things that are coming or speculated to be coming in the next 10 years. So right there in the center between Frontierland and Liberty Square, you can see Cars Land, Piston Peak, that is going to be coming. That is already in progress. We've done construction videos. Check all those things out. But right above there is Villains Land. Now, there are a couple other things that I've added in here. We know Villains Land is coming, but I've also added some speculated expansion areas they could put in based on the Stormwater Master Plan study that they did a few years ago that showcases a much broader area and potential plans for the space back there beyond Thunder Mountain. So we've got Piston Peak, we've got Villains Land, a potential Villains Land Phase 2, a potential Villains Hotel, and then also a possible Fantasyland Hotel. Now, the area that we're going to talk about specifically today is this Villains Land area only. This is the work that they are currently doing at Magic Kingdom right now. That area has been cleared. They have all sorts of construction happening on the Cars expansion right next door, which is going to make way for the Villains. So I expect there to be more construction ramping up on Villains Land very soon. Now, a few weeks back, we got word that Josh D'Amaro, taking over the helm at Disney, was looking to make some big changes to Villains Land. Now that he has taken the helm officially as the new CEO of Walt Disney Company, he wants bigger and bolder. We reported on that back at the time that happened. Lots of chatter's been going on about Josh D'Amaro wanting bigger and bolder. But prior to the reports of this bigger and bolder, this was the expected layout that we were going to be getting for Villains Land. This was based on all the permits, the filings, all the construction, everything in the concept art. This is how we were kind of expecting the land to be laid out and what attractions we were going to get. But we heard that a lot of this is going to be changing based on what Josh D'Amaro has been asking for. So the big speculated changes are, number one, there was a coaster adjustment. This coaster was in the original concept, but there was an ask for it to be plussed up, still believed to be a coaster, but an elevated coaster in some way. But what's interesting is it seems to have changed quite dramatically. So it was supposed to be a more intense Maleficent type roller coaster, and then now has been pivoted to more of a family-friendly Emperor's New Groove coaster. But this is a huge departure if this holds true, because it changes a lot about the layout, the style of the land, and the intensity level of the roller coaster. Maleficent coaster seemed much more intense. Maleficent, obviously, much more menacing, much darker than Emperor's New Groove. But the roller coaster and the location of it wouldn't be impacted, it would still fit. A couple of the other rumored changes: there was always intended to be some sort of indoor dark ride. Now, this was originally likely conceived as some sort of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway trackless adventure. However, we keep hearing reports that they're pushing for something much more ambitious in nature, along the lines of a Rise of the Resistance, the Star Wars attraction at Hollywood Studios, or a Shanghai Pirates of the Caribbean style water attraction. So hopefully this does come to fruition and ends up being something more than just a standard trackless ride. The other big thing is a dining experience, some sort of dinner show. Could this be something more along the lines of a Beauty and the Beast dining experience versus something like a Cosmic Ray? We don't know, but it seems like they're trying to push for something. But overall, the entire land sort of transforming into something a little bit less foreboding than what we see in the original concept art, something much more family friendly. So based on all this information and these possible changes, I created a brand new layout After looking at all the permits, all the filings, the construction that they're currently doing back there, and all these reports and rumors, so right off the bat, you can see at the bottom of this map, we have the entrance directly from Piston Peak. I have another video where I talk about Piston Peak in detail, and these maps basically connect. But essentially, we need to get the Piston Peak area created in order to have Villains Land, because the main entry point into Villains Land will be right there at Piston Peak as they create this sort of arched pathway between Big Thunder Mountain and Haunted Mansion. So you can see the main entrance there leading into Villains Land. Now, right off to the right, we've got this little square here, this little box that I don't have identified because I really don't know what it is. I don't know if it is just some sort of electrical building. This was in the permits specifically. I don't know if this is just an extension for the Haunted Mansion queue. I really have no idea, so I'm just leaving it out for now. But you'll see that as you enter, you'll sort of walk along this major walkway, and along the right side will be all these sort of storefronts and things. Assuming that these storefronts are going to have sort of a town-like style look and feel, almost think of like a Hogsmeade over at Islands of Adventure. You think about those sort of like storefronts with those steeped building sort of roofs and stuff. It feels like a little village, something along the lines of that as you're kind of walking into Villains Land along the right side. On the left side, you can see a track as part of the roller coaster, which we'll get to the roller coaster in a minute. But this was sort of showcased in the concept art that along that entrance as you're walking in, you can kind of see some of the roller coaster that looks like it's buried in some sort of cavernous area. So I don't know if that's still going to be the plan based on this pivot or adjustment, but it seems like that's where some of the roller coaster might go through. There's not a lot of space there, so I don't know how that would work very well. And there would definitely need to be some sort of partition between Big Thunder Mountain and Villains area, or I feel like it's going to be really weird. You'll be able to see each other as you're passing on one roller coaster versus the other. You're looking over at Big Thunder Mountain. Kind of weird. But we do know that they have recently started building a wall alongside Big Thunder Mountain that is blocking the view into Villains Land. There's a lot of people speculating on this wall as to whether it is just something that's going to block people's view into the construction of Villains Land, or if it is some sort of sound thing, or there's some sort of other reason behind it. Could it be some sort of safety issue with like things flying off of Big Thunder Mountain and hitting workers that are over there in construction, or could it be protecting people on Big Thunder Mountain from things that might be flying over from construction? I don't really know, but you can already see the construction happening for Villains Land and the Cars area at Piston Peak. From the queue of Big Thunder Mountain, forget about being on Big Thunder Mountain. Even with the wall in place, you can still see the construction just from standing in the queue. So I'm not really sure it has anything to do with like trying to block off people being able to see what's going on in the construction. It could have something to do with the fact that this might be a permanent wall. It may be there permanently, and then they may find some way to hide it a little bit better with some trees and shrubs and maybe some additional, mountainous type terrain. And it may end up being a permanent thing because there's going to be a roller coaster going through there. Really just don't know. But as you head up the walkway there, past the stores, you get to this major intersection where there is suspected to be some sort of like splash pads or water elements specifically. Possible area right there in that intersection, and a little bit more of the roller coaster. You can see these sort of like splash pads or lighting elements here in the concept art. But this will basically be the main walkway as you sort of round the storefront there to your right. That will head into what I'm just referring to as the town square. And I specifically have in my mind something like a Dark Universe town square with a well in the center of it. I think there's going to be some sort of water element. You can see that in the concept art that we were given. There is definitely a fountain of some kind, a water element. And so I think in the center of this town square, there might be some sort of water fountain with some storefronts around you. But this leads me to an additional element that I'm just referring to as the town. This doesn't exist in any of the permits right now. We haven't seen any sort of structural thing, but I feel like they're going to have to put something in that space along that line, separating the Haunted Mansion from Villains Land. And in the concept art, there's a lot of things that look like town and storefronts and buildings and structures that aren't showing up anywhere in the permits and filings. I feel like they're going to have to add something here along this space to sort of wrap this sort of town square on all sides so it feels more like a town square like in Dark Universe. And in this sort of town structure, I think this is where there could be potentially the new dining experience that Josh D'Amaro is basically challenging them to think about, because that wasn't in the original vision. Could be where some additional storefronts are. I don't know, but I feel like they got to add something there. Now, going back to this restaurant idea, they specifically mentioned being a dinner show. Disney doesn't really do dinner shows, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. They have a couple like Hoop-De-Doo Review, which is amazing, but they don't really do dinner shows, so I don't know what it means. Could be something animatronic related that just always plays, kind of like a Cosmic Rays. Could we get some sort of Hades / Pain and Panic animatronics? We know in one of their videos where they were talking about their new animatronics, they actually showed, and they actually talked specifically about how this new animatronic and this projection mapping that they're doing would be really good for Hades animatronic. Hades animatronic doesn't exist anywhere else, so where would it be going? Probably somewhere in Villains Land. Could it be part of a dinner show, some sort of Hercules Hades dinner show? That could be pretty cool. There's also been the challenge around a third ride. Some sort of like spinner attraction like a Dumbo or an Astro Orbiter. I'm thinking maybe it's some sort of like Ursula Spinner. This would probably have to be located somewhere in this town square area. There's enough space here to put another attraction as long as it's a small one like a spinner. So my expectation is it would be somewhere in this town square. I haven't earmarked it yet, but I think that's where it would be. Now let's talk about the roller coaster. Again, originally Maleficent coaster, now possibly Emperor's New Groove coaster, likely something much more along the lines of a Slinky Dog Dash or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Maybe if we're lucky, it'll be something more like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which I personally think is the best coaster on the planet and is very family friendly. Maybe we can get something like a Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure over there at Islands of Adventure at Universal. Maybe some sort of drop element with Emperor's New Groove. Pull the lever Kronk might be an element to it. I think creating an Emperor's New Groove coaster without a pull the lever Kronk moment would be a massive mistake. And I think this is going to change. If it ends up being Emperor's New Groove, I think it changes the visual of the park dramatically. The visual of the sun, the palace is very bright. It's very different from the dark, moody tones that you get from Maleficent. So you think about that facade, what it might look like there. It might fit a little bit better in with some sort of town elements than Maleficent's castle, but we'll have to wait and see. But I did try to take a crack at creating some sort of like coaster layout based on what I saw in the concept art. We don't have any permits yet for this. We don't have any specific track layouts, so this should just be kind of making it up. But if you follow the track there, it sort of starts in the back of that facade there where the loading queue and bays and everything would be, heading sort of like diagonally downwards to the left is where you would load and you would take off. It would have some sort of loop elements, head down over the left side of the land and that walkway we were talking about between Big Thunder Mountain, circle its way back up into some additional vertical type elements, and then go along the backside of the building and then return to the station. Again, this is all just speculation at this point. Now let's talk about the Maleficent Dark Ride. We did not know anything about what this dark ride could be until these latest pivots took place where it could be the Maleficent has been shifted to the dark ride instead of the coaster. So we very well could still get those cool, ominous elements and all that sort of, that Maleficent dragon spewing that fire and that giant castle kind of in the background, except just sort of shifted over to the right side where this dark ride experience would be, and that would be the facade for that instead of the facade for the coaster. Again, we already talked about what potentially could be in there, some sort of Rise of the Resistance or Shanghai Pirates of the Caribbean water attraction. Could be really neat. And then up there at the top, I've got the train station. This is visible in the concept art. Makes sense to have a train station up there at the top around that sort of loop. There's the train goes all the way up there right along that top line. Makes sense to have a train station there because then you can go from the front of the park to the back of the park in one train ride. It's a long walk back there otherwise, so to give people options on getting to the front and the back of the park, there's definitely going to be a train station back there. And then right out front of this train station, I think there will be different shops, kiosks, food booths, merch booths, and things like that in that town square area. So that's the layout that I'm predicting right now. It will change as things change with permits and we learn more, but I think this is a pretty good representation of what we're going to get. I'm all for bigger and bolder if they can do something a little bit more than maybe what they were originally thinking, that maybe so then it will actually live up to the concept art, because that concept art is amazing. Love to see it happen. The only bad thing is I'm hearing this bigger and bolder strategy might push the Villains Land release date back. I was always expecting it to be in 2030, 2031. Might get pushed back another year, so we'll just have to wait and see. But overall, that's all I've got. just wanted to bring you this latest layout so you can kind of get a little bit more idea of what could be coming here very soon and get you more excited about Villains Land like I am. I cannot wait for this thing to happen. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment. Are you on board with the switch from the Maleficent coaster to Emperor's New Groove? Are you excited about the more family-friendly version of Villains that could be coming? Let me know down in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until I see you next time, the noble way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.